Hello and a very warm welcome to you all. I'm Vikas Nangia with CyberWatch, a program through which you get to meet entrepreneurs, technocrats, and subject matter experts. Ladies and gentlemen, in the very beginning, I want to thank you all for your feedback, questions, and queries that you have for CyberWatch. Today, keeping up in consideration your requests, we will be talking on the topic Top Cybersecurity Predictions of 2024 and Era of Digital Trust. My first guest on the program is Phil Harris, Director of Cybersecurity, Governance, Risk and Compliance at IDC. Phil has flown in all the way from Texas, and my second guest is Margareta Petrovic. Margareta is the Global Managing Partner for Risk and Cybersecurity Consulting at TCS, and she's flown in from Southern California. Phil and Margareta, thank you so very much for joining us on another episode of TV Asia CyberWatch. I'll get your thoughts on the topic, the top predictions for cybersecurity trends, for 2024. Margareta, I'll start with you first.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here again. So cybersecurity is an ever-evolving area. We see trends that are uncovering patterns that are related to geopolitical risks, new technologies such as artificial intelligence, demanding new approaches to ensure that our architecture is secure by design. And with new events and developments, we also have to pay special attention about third parties, risk management, and how much we actually trust the world around us and technology around us.
Phil?
Yeah, and to dovetail on what Margareta was talking about, so in addition to her, the area of AI is huge for a lot of organizations today. There are particular things happening with regulatory environment growing, and there is this area of trust that people need to have for IT systems and protection of customer information. There is also the human factor. Humans are constantly in the trend, because if it wasn't for humans, we wouldn't need cybersecurity.
Many viewers have written to us when they're talking about the top trends for cybersecurity in 2024. They've also expressed some concerns and they want to gather some more information. Many have spoken about AI and deepfakes.
Yep.
That's trending a lot, and it has, as much as there's a fun element to it, there's a lot that people are concerned about it as well. What would you say about AI and deepfakes?
Well, AI is going to be covering a lot of areas for cyber attackers. So deepfakes, certainly. Using AI to create duplicate images of people, using AI to craft more intelligent phishing attacks, and even using AI to gather intel for ransomware attacks. So AI is going to be very flexible and very useful across a number of different current attack scenarios. So cyber attackers are going to continue to use that, and it's also going to invite a lot more novice cyber attackers to join in, because a lot of these technologies become platforms by which you can subscribe to it and then start kicking off cyber attacks from.
Right. And you can become part of it. You could get entangled with it.
Exactly. So AI is really going to challenge a lot of cybersecurity teams around the world. It used to be cyber attackers were generally 2 to 3 years ahead technologically of cybersecurity teams and companies. With AI, I foresee them becoming more advanced, faster, and the gap between us getting wider and wider and wider.
Right. What particular industry do you see thriving in the area of AI?
So when it comes to AI, it is getting more and more adopted by various industries, especially when you have writing exercises, processing large amount of data and coming up with a writing or some kind of a summary.
Right.
So wherever you see activities that are related to such functionality, such as writing, publishing, reviewing, summarizing. We see AI. Now, the more we use AI, the more ideas we get, and there are different concerns related, first and foremost, about the data source that is being used to generate information with AI processing. There is an element of security and processes and then privacy, as well as a need-to-know basis. You have to control the data sources before you publish information to the right audience.
Yeah.
On the top of that, there is a language that is processing large amount of data. That language has to be protected. It has to be taken under control because if it's learning by itself, it is learning as good as we feed it.
Yeah.
So whatever is the starting point, as well as the consequencing decision making, has to be well protected. And finally, how are we transmitting the data, the information that's being produced is also subject to the right protection, plus the audience.
Yeah.
You don't want to create a beautiful AI-enabled solution that is going to allow your general population to see your highly sensitive financial information. So it's complex.
This is complex, but this is interesting as well. Now, building up on what Margareta said, Phil, she said AI will be used for writing and reviewing purposes as well. You being at the research center and understanding, both of you understand risk management so very well when it comes to cybersecurity. Writing is AI, now reviewing is also happening by AI. Talk about the pros and cons there.
Yeah.
I mean, the human element is going to be less over there when you're writing with AI, and reviewing is also happening by AI.
I know. It's, you know, on the one hand, it'll be a useful thing to have to help produce more content faster and to gather more information that's available around the world to provide into that content you're going to create. The problem with that is, where is that content coming from? And is that content trademarked, or is that intellectual property, or is that already something that the author would not want to have used or plagiarized? So there's going to be a lot of issues with how do we manage that over time. And and the other thing, and Margaret is great, the area of reviewing, this is where it's going to be a little challenging because of the need to take these large language models and to calibrate and to tune them in such a way that it doesn't introduce any unauthorized bias or any kind of subjectivity or any kind of issues with the content that would lead the researcher or the person having the content reviewed to be subjected to any kind of liability.
Interesting. We'll continue with our top predictions for cybersecurity in 2024. But right after the short break, viewers, you stay tuned. Phil and Margareta, you be with us. We'll be right back after these messages. Phil and Margareta, once again, welcome to TV Asia's CyberWatch. Thank you so much for all the insights. So the curiosity furthermore is building up. We want to understand what are some more trends that one can expect in 2024. Margareta, would you like to give us some more insight other than AI and deepfakes now?
Yes. So one of the most recent threats that we see is related to the compliance and digital trust. Now, given that Phil is our governance, risk, and compliance expert, I would like him to say more about the topic.
Compliance is an interesting thing, and these days, compliance is starting to become a primary activity for organizations.
Right.
It used to be that there was it would be kind of like, yeah, let's do compliance, but now it's like we have to do compliance.
It's mandatory, sort of.
It's becoming more mandatory, and we need to have more of it done across the environment. So from an IT perspective, with the way compliance was being done for years is, we would look at a piece of IT and make sure that thing, that system, that application was in compliance with whatever security policies. Now, we need to make sure the entire environment is being looked at all the time so that the executives, board members, CISOs can get a very complete picture of the state of compliance in the organization. So what we're really talking about is bringing more automation to it, because it's such a vast area,
right?
And it requires today a lot of people in getting involved. It impacts a lot of the organization. IT people have to stop what they're doing, whatever they're doing, to gather data. Cybersecurity teams have to stop what they're doing to gather data. Auditors are sitting and waiting for data to be given to them. So, but by having it more automated out throughout the environment, the information will be there and readily available for those that need it when they need it, and especially executives and board members. When we talk about things like the latest SEC ruling, for example,
right?
Executives and board members are becoming in the crosshairs more and more and more from a risk and compliance perspective, having to know how compliant they are, what their risk posture is in the organization. They have to know now. Now, they don't have to be cybersecurity experts,
right,
but they need to know. So there's a lot of factors that will go into that as to how to create the reporting that'll be in such a way that they can easily understand what their posture is,
right,
without getting lost in the cybersecurity jargon and mysteries that go on.
Companies who do not have compliance in place, what repercussions, if you could come up with any, the immediate case studies, something that comes to your mind that the compliance was not in place and this is what the repercussions was, would you like to talk a bit about that? And yes, also if you could talk a bit about what risk posture is.
Sure. Risk posture is assessing your IT environment, for example, looking for what the security deficiencies are, and being able to bring some kind of a score of between how many deficiencies you have versus how many controls that are in place and working properly. Mm-hmm. So it's really the gap between the two and coming up with some kind of scoring mechanism. That's kind of a risk posture, right? It gives a context to the executives and board members and so forth, just to get a frame of context.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. I would like to add to that
Please.
Besides giving that score that is primarily understood by cybersecurity professionals, mm-hmm. The trend would be to move towards more humanly understandable mm-hmm. cybersecurity risk posture,
yeah.
Right.
Which is naturally going to tie back into monetary value. What boards understand is what is the risk to the business, what is the value that we are trying to protect, and how much are we willing to invest in that specific area to mitigate the risk or to accept the risk so that we can keep on business running. Mm-hmm. So the trend is not only to give the scoring to cybersecurity risks, but going one step further. How do you quantify that risk? And how do you move from that risk quantification into executable decisions that can be taken by the highest executives of the organization?
What more is creating buzz in the world of cybersecurity when we talk about trends?
Well, in the area of regulatory compliance, there is so much regulatory activity happening now around the world.
Right.
Where governments, right now, they're more focused on how do we apply regulations to AI, to go back to that, because there's a lot of fear on how AI will impact the world, their state, their governments, and so forth. But there's also bringing more accountability to executives and organizations to really understand or absolutely know how secure they are, and also be able to notify in the event of a breach. So the shorter durations of time. Used to be you would have, a few weeks available to you to notify, proper parties of a breach. Now with the new SEC ruling for public companies, they want it happening in 4 days. 4 days.
Yeah.
And that's that may or may not pose a lot of challenges, since many organizations already have their incident reporting processes in place, but it's ratcheting it tighter and tighter and tighter.
Yeah. So, Margareta, many of us are discovering AI on day-to-day basis, as the technology continues to evolve. But for corporate companies, the employees over there, how significant is it that is for them to understand it a little bit more closely and go through a training process of AI? Because, they're putting together a lot of facts out for the consumers. What would you say?
I think there has to be some level of selection. So on the organizational level, I believe each and every organization should select the use cases. What do you want your AI to be used for? Mm-hmm. What is the acceptable use within the organization? I understand AI is increasing the efficiency of employees, but at the same time, without proper use, it can bring a lot of risk to the organization. As you just mentioned, inaccurate information,
right.
Data leakage, because AIs are based on cloud.
Right.
If you're putting some confidential information somewhere else, you don't know where it's going to end up. So there is a fine balance. Therefore, the first step for every organization is vetting what are the use cases and what are the appropriate AI solutions to be used as third parties or to be built in-house. We have a couple of clients that are actually building their own AIs for the purpose of sensitive information, right. Conservation and control. And that is fair given the high risk.
Phil, you like to add more to that?
Yeah, I think educating the employees is going to be crucial these days. I mean, it used to be educating employees about cybersecurity was a requirement for most public organizations, but now more so, we have to add AI into the mix so that employees understand what is it that, how can they use AI properly, how to be responsible for it, and how to know when AI is not working properly.
Yeah. We'll take another short break over here. On the other side of the break, viewers, when we come back, we'll take a look at the CyberWatch News Flash, and then we'll resume back to our conversation. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back. You're watching CyberWatch, ladies and gentlemen. Today with our special guests on the program, we are discussing on top cybersecurity predictions of 2024 and era of digital trust. Before we resume back to our conversation, let's take a quick look at the CyberWatch News Flash. US launches probe into Change Healthcare ransomware attack over data breach concerns. The United States government has launched an investigation into the massive ransomware attack that has crippled Change Healthcare, a major health payment provider. The Office for Civil Rights, OCR, part of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, has initiated this probe due to the unprecedented magnitude of the cyber incident, which was first identified on February 21st, 2024. The ongoing attack has caused significant disruptions to patient care across the nation, with hospitals facing challenges in filling prescriptions, submitting insurance claims, and receiving payments for healthcare services. The American Hospital Association, AHA, has detailed the far-reaching impacts of this attack on the ability to provide essential medical care. The OCR's investigation will focus on determining whether protected healthcare information was breached during the attack and whether United Health Group, the parent company of Change Healthcare, complied with the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA, privacy, security, and breach notification rules. Melanie Fontes-Rena, director of the OCR, emphasized the urgency of safeguarding protected healthcare information, encouraging all entities to review their cybersecurity measures to ensure the continuity of patient care and the protection of sensitive medical data. In continuation to our topic, Phil, give us some insight on some more trends that one could expect in 2024.
Yeah, specifically in the area of supply chain security and third-party risks and security. Today organizations, the way they assess their third-party suppliers is they generally send out questionnaires, they get responses, they may make an on-site visit, but generally it's information that's provided to them that they don't really get validated. So we don't know for sure that the responses are accurate. There certainly will be a bit biased and subjective, but we don't really know. So we don't really know the state of security for our suppliers. So that's an area where I'm beginning to see a lot of these third-party risk management platforms. These providers are now getting in the business of validating the information that comes back. So we can get more reliable information to organizations out there in the industry so that they can know that this company's already been looked at, the information's been validated, so that you don't need to do any further work. So there's exchanges being created where companies can tap in and get a subscription so that they don't have to go and do it all themselves again. So a lot of this is being generated out there in a very powerful way. The other area is supply chain risks.
Yeah.
We saw with SolarWinds and Kaseya, cyber attackers learned a long time ago that if you really want to break into a company, go through your supply chain, because chances are they're not as secure as you think.
Right.
And that's what will happen. You'll have another SolarWinds, another Kaseya out there in the industry. So more and more, there are a lot of vendor players out there that are assisting in taking a look at, let's just take software supply chain.
Yeah. So
you create a piece of software. It involves a number of different third-party libraries that get involved in building the software. So a lot of these players are now being able to look at those third-party libraries and say, there's a that's vulnerable, that's vulnerable, that's vulnerable. So organizations, they can immediately fix their software that's been created to make it cyber attack proof.
Especially for the small companies, they think it's very easy to penetrate into the market, with an app or whatever the product that they're thinking, but they think less about the digital trust aspect and also the compliance part, which is so significant over here. What is that you'd like to tell to the entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs who are thinking in this area, especially about digital trust and the compliance part as well? I'll come to you, Phil, for the compliance part.
So compliance and trust are both cost of business. Mm-hmm. If you're dealing with the sensitive information, you definitely have to be compliant. So my personal piece of advice is very simple. Do your research before getting into the business. Understand what are all the implications of the business model and the flows that you want to take. Do the right calculations and then have the right architecture and the services.
Yeah.
There is nothing more expensive than coming back to redo it, other than being penalized and potentially going out of the business.
Yeah. And so how should they ensure also to get the trust of the consumers? That's also another part of it, which is very, very significant. And why I ask this question is, there are a lot of entrepreneurs that we come across who think like, opening a site for dating purposes or so many of these things which do not require a huge monetary investment initially, but the compliance part is so much intense over there. And even to get the trust of the clients, it takes years together. Mm-hmm. So dating was just one example, but there are many more areas that we are talking about over here where initial investment is less, but the legal implications are so much more, and the social and moral responsibilities are so much more, especially when it comes to digital trust. I'd like to get your expertise on that part.
But you're mentioning legal. Once it comes to legal, it's too late. Your trust is lost.
Correct. That's true.
So you have to do your due diligence, your research, your planning up front, as just mentioned. Even if there is no regulatory requirements for a specific area, you have to take into consideration what type of data are you going to have. Think of you as a potential consumer. Maybe you are running plastic surgery business, and you have a lot of confidential pictures. How would you feel that those pictures leak out? Like, put appropriate technical protections to protect your customers, your clients, and that's how you're building trust. It takes time. It takes time to build it, and it takes one instance to lose it.
Yeah. Phil?
Yeah, in this area, it starts with the data. You got to understand what data is it that you will have control over. Until you understand that, you don't know what security requirements you need. You don't know what regulatory requirements that are out there for your company. So to make sure that you're protecting the information properly. But it all starts with design, security by design. And you know, it's always been a habitual problem for organizations when they see, you know, I call it the shiny new penny syndrome, right? AI is a shiny new penny syndrome. But you can look throughout history. Business wants to get out to market fast, and security is always following right behind to be retrofitted. It's more expensive to retrofit, and you're taking an awful gamble by not having proper controls in place right from the get-go. You really are. It could be the difference between, you know, becoming this major, massive, successful business, or losing your business because you've been sued so much. It could end up being that detrimental. But going back to the area of digital trust, if you're a responsible organization, you've identified the data, you're clear about what your requirements are, you're clear how you're going to be regulated if you're being regulated, and you implement and design it right from the beginning, you will have a much better chance of marketing yourself as a trusted brand. Okay? You'll have a much better time of that. And I foresee in the future there we'll have some trust markings. You know, much like years ago where when we first started doing business on the internet, there was the idea of having this iTrust signature on your web pages, right? Making sure the website was secure. We'll start seeing something like that.
But that would be a good area of endorsing, validating that it's all authentic. I think just as the ISO measures were taken in consideration, you know, it was like a trademark up over there, and there was a third party who was validating all the content over there. So that kind of a you know, entity might come in existence. Well, thank you so much for all that you know, information that you gave us about the top predictions for cybersecurity in 2024. It's time for us to wrap up the episode. Viewers, I want to bring to your attention again that CyberWatch is powered by DigitalXForce and iTrustXForce. If you want to reach out to them, the best way is through LinkedIn and through their website. If you have any questions and queries that you'd like us to discuss on any particular topic on CyberWatch related to cybersecurity, you can write us at cyberwatch@tvasiausa.com. Phil and Margarita, once again, thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Viewers, this brings us to the end of today's episode of CyberWatch. Until next time, this is Vikas Nangia signing off. Thank you for joining us.